Welcome, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining this talk on why do you need a CMS anymore? And before we get started, let's just give us a quick introduction. And since I'm the host, I will be cheeky enough to start about talking about myself. If that's okay. All right. I'm Roland Villemoes. I'm CTO at Alpha Solutions in North America. And Alpha Solutions is a solution provider, agency, working with a lot of different CMSs, Hygraph, one of them, DXPs, a lot of different commerce. And like everybody else, we do a lot within AI and with a lot of focus on process optimization, security, and all those things that we feel like a lot of people are missing out in this age of AI. Quickly about me, let's jump over to you, Anthony, man of the day. Please introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Poliseno. I'm the CMO at Hygraph, and Hygraph is a headless CMS with a very strong focus on structured content and agentic workflows. So this is my fourth time around in a CMS company. So I started my journey in this field at Contentful, and then I was at a smaller startup called Uniform, and then most recently at Magnolia. So old school CMS, Java-based.
Yeah.
So I've done kind of both ends of the structure, and I've seen a lot of the patterns and change over the past few years as we kind of went through the composable era, and now we're entering the AI era.
Wow, thanks. I mean, I think it's pretty clear to everybody that you're perfect match for having this discussion with the background you have there. Wait, let's just dive in. And just before we start, I mean, the headline we came up with is a little provocative, like, why do we need a CMS? And talk to a guy who works with a CMS provider. But that's the whole idea. And I think both, I guess you and I and everybody else around working in this area of work have a lot of clients and prospects out there that have those questions, when we all say, now I can build my app myself. I can do this and I can do this. I don't really need it anymore. And some of them have done a lot of vibe coding, and some of them have done with more success than others. There's been very bad stories. There's been impressive stories, at least to begin with. So I think I gather a lot of questions, old school on a paper. And I think they actually represent a lot of the concerns or thoughts that people have around working with CMSs. So in no order of relevance of these questions, I'll just dive right in and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's get to it.
Cool. All right. So a classic one, I would say, so we heard it all. So AI can generate a landing page in about 30 seconds, right? So why do we actually need a CMS to manage one? I can just say, update this headline or add this other image. Like, why do I need a CMS to do that?
So, I mean, I think it's a great question. And honestly, it's a question we've asked ourselves internally, right? As we think about our roadmap and what's coming next in the space, I'm sure everyone else is doing the same. For me, it's there's two things I keep in mind, and I try to share this with the product team as well. We see customers of all walks of life and all different technical skill levels. First and foremost, I think is something to consider. Yes, there are people that are at the cutting edge and getting rid of the CMS entirely and using a GitHub repo and Claude and doing an awful lot on their own. But those are the exceptions rather than the rule these days, I think. And I think when you think about managing content at scale in a business where that content has a real revenue impact, there's also the matter of trust. And I think I'm located here in Berlin, in Germany, and we've heard firsthand from customers that have come to visit us in the office, they absolutely aren't touching AI at all. So there's traditional, large consumer packaged goods companies that even though they see the stats, they see what their peers are doing, they've got a mandate to not allow AI into their infrastructure. So I think because this is an emerging technology and because it is so powerful, it also carries a lot of risk. And in my career, I think I've been at companies that have really tried to aim at that cutting edge part of the market, I've never seen that be the bulk of the market. The market doesn't move that fast.
Interesting.
Thinking about, our audience at Magnolia was largely these very large, big, old enterprises. They just depend on analysts at Gartner to tell them what to buy. They take so long to adopt this stuff. And while there might be engineers that are doing it on their own and bringing it in, in terms of a company-wide policy or company-wide stance on architecture, I still think it's going to take some time to get there, no matter how fast AI evolves.
Yeah. Good answer there. So I can say from what we work at Alpha Solutions, there's definitely clients we work with in highly regulated businesses that sort of the same, like you cannot just use AI for everything. Understandably, you have a lot of protected PII info. You cannot just do it, and what's happened to it? Does it go outside? You don't know. You kind of
Exactly.
it can be crucial.
Yeah, and I would also add, as for every amazing innovation I see, and every compelling demo I see, this week I had a customer support nightmare, right? Just ordering furniture for my flat. When there was a problem, when something kind of fell outside the normal expected behaviors in the process, I was left with AI support, and AI support couldn't help me. And this was for obviously a large, well-known furniture manufacturer that I've gotten probably 20, 25 deliveries over the past 20 years in 3 different countries. I had to physically go across town to the store and talk to a human being to get my problem solved. Multiple AI chats, phone calls that were obviously AI phone trees wouldn't help. I got stuck in this kind of nightmare loop. So a human was the only way to solve it at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's definitely something to be aware of, because you can definitely get some minus points on your brand thing there, right? It's a bad story.
Yeah, and it's a brand that I've always been super pleased with, never had an issue with. Any issue was instantly solved, with a live chat, and now it doesn't work that way anymore. And I had a peer that coincidentally had a delivery the same day from a different local manufacturer with all local processes, no AI, and it went off without a hitch. So still in, waiting and seeing in large regard to some of these AI features.
Cool. Move on to something completely different, which is, look into the crystal ball, I guess. So I don't know if you have an opinion on it. Like, how do you see the size and shape of the CMS? Because there's so many CMSs out there. You've been in some of them. Like, how do you think that will change, in the future?
I think the way I've been thinking about it lately, the CMS to me still has a role to play in terms of stewardship and guardrails. So with how we're thinking about it and how we're looking at the product, the scale of content creation will definitely dramatically increase. It already is increasing. So maintaining your brand, making sure that new content fits your business goals, your strategic goals, even things like alignment with your SEO goals. The CMS I see has a key role to play there. As a marketer in my perfect world, the CMS would be the single kind of source of truth. I think a lot of vendors pitch that idea. In practice, in marketing, our number one used tool is Google Docs, right? Things get written in a simple Word doc and then get translated to the CMS somehow. Things might get generated in Claude or ChatGPT and then copied and pasted into a Google Doc, and then make its way to the CMS. If I had the perfect tool, I could use the CMS to define brand guidelines, define style, define business goals, generate the right content, and not only just landing pages, but nurture emails I need for a campaign, ads ready to go on LinkedIn or Google or wherever I'm doing my paid media strategy. But I'd like to be generating all that content from some kind of core source of truth. And that's ultimately, in my perfect world, that's where the CMS ends up. So more context management than content management.
Yeah. Right. I get that. Yeah. All right. So that almost leads into my third question about staffing needs. Like, how do you see, like, you say, like, but everybody say, oh, create so much more content in 5 minutes. I can be so much more productive. So I think you've been working as a marketer. Do you really need the same? It's talk to the scares about everybody's job is going away, right? But which is of course pretty exaggerated, but to my opinion at least. But you can do much more, create much more content easily, and you say maybe within guidelines or brand guidelines and all that stuff. So you can be way more productive. So how do you see staffing needs in marketing?
Yeah, for me, it hasn't made me think about eliminating roles at all. What it does make me think about, especially when I'm hiring, is junior roles, I think, are tougher to justify unless we really can imagine a huge amount of work for them. And even mid-range roles, I think, are starting to be affected. What I want to see is people with strategic thinking, people that understand our mission as a company and our vision for the product, and know how to come up with the great ideas to steer Claude and
those are always needed.
Right. So what I'm looking for on my team are people to own their domains. Marketing is always tricky because there's 6, 7 different flavors of marketing that are all pretty key to have at a company like ours. It's hard to dedicate a single person to each of those, but if those people are smart thinkers, if they are embedded with the exec team as we kind of formulate our strategy and understand which part of the market we're aiming for, which roles we're aiming for, they're the ones that can then translate that to, scaling via AI, whether that's campaign ideas or which events we should be showing up at or which communities we need to be embedding ourselves in online. I'm looking for the smart brains, which, at a startup our size we can structure our team that way. It gets much harder if it's a 5,000 person company, 250 person marketing team. You can't hire A+ senior players in every role. And that's where it probably gets pretty tricky as a marketing leader to decide.
Yeah, I think that's not only marketing. A lot of people and friends I have that works in finance and everything else, they say the same that you say, like, you don't need the same junior, seem to maybe not the same mid-level. So that's the obvious question is how does a new person actually get to be senior?
Yeah, and it's really like I had a lot of valuable years where I was junior and working side by side with people that, I look at things like programmatic thinking, right? Are they trying to fix a tactical problem? Or are they trying to think about how we can use the right tools to fix this problem forever and keep improving it over time? That's a hard skill to judge for, even in an interview sometimes. Sometimes they can say the right things in the interview, and then once you get them on the job, you don't see that coming out, and they're looking for somebody to tell them the checklist of things they need to do every week. So that idea of ownership, stewardship, again, like really key for me as I look how I staff the team.
Yeah. All right. Switching topic again, like every question is just a totally new topic. So let's see. All my customers actually going to talk to an AI agent, right? I'm not really going on a website anymore. I don't browse the website anymore. So why do I actually invest in so much structured content?
So I think, ironically, AI makes it even more important to have structured content, right? You need content in a format with the right tagging structures or format, so the AI knows where it fits and how it relates to the other content on a page or in a document, whatever. So as we think about how we connect a CMS with all the other tools in a MarTech stack, for example, that structure becomes extremely key. And it's funny because I kind of started my career in the space when we talked a lot about content modeling and why it was important. And content modeling was really a large conversation at the kind of beginning of the headless CMS era. But only a very few people really understood it or really got passionate about it. A lot of, because businesses move fast, like taking the time to actually architect your content schema was something that a lot of businesses didn't want to bother doing. And now it turns out that's a huge advantage, especially as you scale AI. So I think CMSs could do a better job at teaching users how to do that, especially non-technical users, and why it's important. But I think AI tools will take advantage of that as it becomes common practice. But it's something we think about a lot at Hygraph.
Yeah, right. Good point there. So back to the content team, it looks like Claude and basically any AI as such can actually, write really good product descriptions, like also analyze images, and they might even, you can feel sometimes they write it better than my own team do it, right? So,
yeah.
So I mean, if that's part of CMS, it's like what's left for the CMS to do there? Like if they're not doing it in the CMS anymore, it's going to be part of the CMS with almost all CMSs have assistants that can help you, like you write a line of text and then it comes up with some ideas, right?
Yeah, I think tying back to the kind of guardrails stewardship idea, when we did a big workshop a couple months ago and thought about the future of CMS and what it means. And I think one of the ideas we had, right, assuming AI is going to continue to get better, AI can help you identify a market. It can help you create audience segments. It could generate digital experiences on the fly. And then it can assess and improve those experiences over time. What's interesting is what's missing there in today's technology is that idea of a business outcome tied to a digital artifact. So if we had a CMS that knew that a call to action button had a key job in digital experiences, and that was conversion, and the CMS could measure and improve it over time, it's really up to the human to kind of point this perpetual business machine, for want of a better word, at the right topic. And it could be one of the examples I was thinking about. If you like the company Sheen, built a business at being able to move fast. So they would copy successful ideas in fashion or retail. They could find and source manufacturers ultra quickly. They could get the product to market ultra quickly, and they could have the digital experience there ready to go. And I kind of see CMS will move in the same way as AI gets more advanced, right? You could have AI listening tools monitoring the market, or AI tools that could look at your warehouse data and say, you've got 10,000 extra pairs of red shoes and you have to move them. I can see that a certain market in Asia is really into this brand of shoes. Let's launch up a new brand, a new site, connect it to the back office systems, and you could come in the morning, open your laptop, and say, here's the market opportunity we've identified. We've set up the site. We've sourced the product. It's ready to go. Just hit the button if it's okay, and you hit the button, and the messaging is ready, and the campaign is ready. And I think that's a pretty incredible future to think about. It's a little it does require a lot of things to work better than probably they do today, right? You can't have mistakes if you're planning to build your business around it. But I see that the CMS evolving kind of into this brain where, yes, you can generate product descriptions better than a human, but it can't necessarily find the market opportunities in the same way or connect the dots like a human can. So it's almost like everybody becomes a mini CEO, right? And could be managing this tool that finds them the business opportunities, optimizes for revenue, and continues to self-optimize over time.
Right. Great ideas. You must have a couple of spin-offs there going on. No.
Yeah, right. I need about 100 more product people.
Very interesting. Yeah. All right, let's switch to something about personalization. So also working with CMS for a lot of years, like personalization used to be a CMS killer feature. Like it always sold with that. We all know it's not that many times they actually got implemented once it got sold, but it's always a very good selling feature, and it's a very important feature. So now AI can do personalization like way beyond just segmentations and all. It can be really hyper personalized experiences you can create. So how are you thinking about that, and how that's gonna play out?
Yeah, I always kind of I had a former boss that was an investor in a personalization company, and he said, look, personalization is like running shoes for Usain Bolt. It's going to make a huge difference at companies that have enough volume to kind of see the difference. For most businesses, it's not going to really affect much or change much. I think we are in a world where we can deliver on that today. The big blocker previously was content. You didn't have a team of 20 people to write 50 variations, right? Personas, however you were going to market. You can do that now. I think the counter to that is humans are often smarter than we give them credit for. Our superpower as a species is pattern recognition. People already recognize AI writing. I hear it when I turn on a YouTube video, when I open a page. You see all those little grammatical tricks and however they train the models. I assume we'll get better at avoiding that in the future, but right now, and I see it in our own outbound experiments, if we try to personalize too much, it becomes really clear a machine did it, and everybody ignores the email. So finding a way to insert some human character. And I think about this, I come from a content background. I started my career kind of doing a lot of marketing writing. I recognize the same grammatical structures I used 20 years ago now are ultra common in AI, and I hate it. M-dash was a favorite of mine way back, the early 2000s. What I think as a marketer, what excites me is there becomes then a huge opportunity to stand out. If every company is using AI to generate content, things like a distinct brand point of view, things like a unique writing voice. I think about these super clever display ads you see from scammy companies that deliberately have a typo, and they have that typo or strange grammar to make somebody click. And so I think that we will find a way to take the best of AI and the kind of scale it brings us, while also kind of protecting ourselves by developing these unique voices. And GEO is another place where this is really important. So a lot of tech companies kind of have aimed at the middle of the market the past few years. I'd say past 15 years. Everybody focused on performance marketing. It was all about numbers. Everybody ignored PR, brand advertising, and kind of because of the way investment works behind these companies, they had to capture the biggest part of the market possible. What I've seen in the past 2 or 3 years, even in the CMS space, is specialization becoming super important. I've lost deals before to CMSs that only target local governments. And so that unique point of view and that declaration that we're just going to aim at this one small part of the market, we're going to do it really, really, really well, and we don't really care what the big giant competitors are doing because we know this space. That kind of thinking is going to be extremely important in the world of personalization for sure.
Yeah. Very interesting elements you got out there. Yeah, it's also about that whole thought that was from the beginning with AI. You have AI generate the content, you have AI reading it, like the whole thing about, the snake eating its tail, right? It's like it's generating content, feeding into the same AI models, like, where's that going to take us? But cool. I have a couple of more, 2 more questions. I think that is highly relevant. There's a lot of questions you actually, I think, with the good answers you give on some of the others, sort of become redundant. So I'm going to jump to a couple of questions. I think it's really interesting. So let's turn this conversation a bit around. So instead of it's always been something about going to the CMS and why do you need CMS, then where do you see AI making your CMS more valuable?
So I think that if I think about the work that is annoying in managing digital experiences, right? I think to me, the biggest help AI will have is in managing that. And so thinking about agentic workflows, the kind of drudgery involved of like bulk updates across a field of content, the ability to kind of monitor and remain consistent with messaging. Especially if you're managing a multi-brand platform and you're kind of juggling brands A, B, and C and making sure everything is in its right place. I think AI will help hugely there. I think AI is great for summarizing information. So for the people monitoring CMS and the digital experience and the performance, like I think AI is going to be huge in that way. So to me, it's the more exciting part is the boring stuff. As when we're kind of having those go-to-market conversations and you hear over and over why people are frustrated with their current CMS, almost always it boils down to the kind of maintenance, the resource overhead it takes, and also the ease of use, I think, is a challenge that most CMS companies have not really touched. You've got some that have kind of focused on the front end part of the puzzle and kind of sacrificed some of the developer flexibility for that. But nobody, I can't log into any CMS that I know of and have a prompt say, do you want to launch a new brand? And then walk me through what I need to provide for that. Or be able to carry over kind of content model and schema and leverage that in a new way for a new type of experience. Those kinds of things I think can be made a lot easier with AI. I'm one of those people that loves prompt-based interaction. So
Right.
rather than hunting for a menu, like if I can just send a note in the interface itself, or even better in Slack, and just say, hey, we're launching a new campaign around retail. Can you build me a landing page based on the content here, here, and here, and send it to me for review? Like it becomes so much easier, especially for non-technical people. I think one of the reasons headless struggled to really gain mainstream adoption and kind of displace the Adobes of the world, they're always the big dog, was that Adobe's still much easier for a business person to use. You don't need a developer or a queue of tasks in someone's screen that they have to go through. It's still incredibly hard to just create a new page or change a component in most CMSs.
Yeah, I agree. There could also be things about, you say, like the prompt-based, like just getting some statistics or getting some reports or where do we have content on this, help me identifying where did I write something about that 2 weeks ago. We all have those struggles and people start clicking around and search is never really good and in any CMS. So that's
and I'm a broken record with our product team, but I bring that up a lot, and it's something I've seen, for almost 10 years now. And it's never as easy as it should be, or as we talk about it being. Some people, this multi-brand is something we've talked a lot about. We had a lot of kind of prospects looking for that solution. I don't know of a headless CMS where I can log in and have some simple color coding or tagging that shows me this content entry is for brand A and this one's for brand B. If the CMS is really the repository for the business's kind of critical content, it doesn't look at performance very well. And a lot of times that gets chalked up to the kind of separation between headless and front end. But boy, if I was in charge of digital at a company, I would love to see what CTAs work best around the world in different regions at different times of day, and be able to kind of control that easily from a central place.
Sure. All right. So are there any cases where you see, like, for companies who say, okay, I'm in for this brand or for whatever I'm building here, you're right. I really don't need a CMS.
I think definitely like the SMB world, which I think has kind of defaulted to things like WordPress. Even I've seen a lot going to open source solutions like Strappy. I think in the very near future, like they're probably going to be able to do a lot with Lovable and Claude and not need a solution. I think that most of the players in the space should be looking hard at their self-serve plans, which oftentimes compromise enterprise sales. They're often designed for that lower end of the market or hobbyist developers or like individuals that are acting as agencies. That's where I think the risk is. I think a Nike or an Amazon or, you know, these big enterprises that have thousands of sites or millions of pages, like they still need the support that a CMS offers.
And you need the workflows and you need the QA, right? Because
when you have 2 or 3 people that are getting in and managing a website, I think the world where you need a CMS for that is probably changing very, very fast.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Very interesting points. I don't have any more questions. I mean, I could probably have a lot, but very, very interesting and very detailed answers. Anthony, it was really, really great.
Yeah, hopefully that worked. Hopefully we answered the question.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. That was awesome.